Beneath the Soviet Union's iron rule, another power thrived in the shadows. This was the Russian underworld, a secret society with its own laws, leaders, and brutal justice. Its rulers were the Vory v Zakone, the thieves-in-law, shadow tsars of an empire built on fear and loyalty. Their world was a direct rebellion against the state, celebrating defiance where the regime demanded obedience. The Vory created a brotherhood that offered protection and identity in a system designed to crush them. To be a thief-in-law was to uphold a sacred code, placing the underworld above all else. Their authority came not just from violence, but from strict adherence to the ponyati, the unwritten rules of their society. Breaking the code meant swift, merciless punishment. The Vory were sworn enemies of the state, refusing any cooperation with authorities. Their absolute opposition gave them moral authority in the criminal world. Even in a totalitarian state, power found cracks to grow, and the Vory became the hidden masters of Russia's dark side. Their story is a chilling reminder. In the shadows, a parallel Russia flourished. The Vory v Zakone were born in the Gulag, Stalin's vast network of labor camps. In these brutal prisons, survival meant forming a new kind of family. Professional criminals, the blatnai, banded together, creating a rigid hierarchy to protect themselves from guards and other inmates. Their code, the ponyati, demanded total commitment: no family, no legitimate work, no service to the state. The brotherhood was all that mattered. Cooperation with authorities was forbidden. A thief's life was dedicated solely to crime and the advancement of the brotherhood. Initiation was strict. Candidates were scrutinized, sworn to the code, and marked with tattoos that told their criminal story. These tattoos were a secret language, a passport in the thieves' world. The Vory became the aristocrats of the Soviet underworld, controlling black markets and enforcing their own justice. Their reputation was fearsome. They had renounced everything for their cause. More than criminals, they were ideological opponents of the Soviet system. In the heart of the Gulag, they built a fortress of tradition and ritual. Even in the state's harshest institution, a different kind of power thrived. World War II shattered the Vory's brotherhood. Stalin offered prisoners a deal: fight for the motherland, and your sentences will be commuted. Thousands of criminals joined the Red Army, breaking the Vory's sacred rule: never cooperate with the state. When these men returned, they were branded Suki, traitors. The old guard Vory refused to accept them, seeing their honor as stained. The Suki, hardened by war, refused to be cast out. The result: a brutal civil war in the camps, the Suki War, pitting old traditions against a new, pragmatic criminal order. The violence was staggering. Thousands died as prison administrators fanned the flames. The war weakened the Vory, breaking the old code and creating deep divisions. The Suki, with tacit state support, carved out their own power. A new generation emerged, willing to bend rules, mix crime with politics, and collaborate when convenient. The Suki War ended the classical era of the Vory. The underworld was forever changed. Flexibility replaced purity. The Russian mafia's soul was torn, but its power endured. From this chaos, the modern Russian mafia was born. The Soviet Union's collapse in 1991 created a perfect storm for organized crime. State assets were up for grabs, the police were powerless, and the legal system was in chaos. The criminal underworld seized the moment. A lawless frontier emerged. The old Vory struggled to adapt. Their code was built for survival, not for capitalism. A new breed rose, the Avtoriteti, young, aggressive, and focused on money and force. They offered protection, or krisha, to businesses desperate for security. The mafia became an unofficial layer of government, collecting tribute from every business. Crime, business, and politics merged. Gangsters became bankers. Politicians hired assassins. The Vory who adapted became power brokers, mediating between violent new gangs. The underworld was no longer hidden. It was central to the new Russia. Its influence reached every corner of the economy and state. The mafia was now a key player in Russia's transformation. The shadows had become the mainstream. Out of the 1990s chaos, the Solntsevskaya Bratva emerged as Russia's most powerful criminal organization. Named for a Moscow district, they operated as a decentralized network, dozens of crews under a common brand. This flexibility let them adapt and survive police crackdowns. Their leader, Sergei Mikas Mikhailov, was part businessman, part gangster, part diplomat. The Solntsevskaya moved beyond racketeering into finance, energy, and global trade. They controlled businesses from Moscow casinos to Spanish real estate. Their power combined extreme violence with sophisticated financial crime. Former KGB agents, economists, and lawyers joined their ranks, making them formidable. By the mid-1990s, they were a global force, thousands of members, billions in assets. Their reach spanned drug trafficking, arms dealing, and money laundering. The Solntsevskaya showed the world that the Russian mafia was now a global threat. The new Russian mob was a multinational corporation of crime. As Slavic mobs built empires, a new force rose from the south, the Chechen Mafia. Forged in clan warfare, the Chechens were bound by family, not the Vory code. Their loyalty and discipline made them nearly impossible to infiltrate. The Chechens earned a reputation for ferocity, specializing in violent raids, bank fraud, and kidnapping. Their willingness to use extreme violence shocked Moscow's underworld. Slavic gangs, unable to fight them alone, formed uneasy alliances. The conflict was a culture clash, tradition versus raw power. Moscow's streets became battlegrounds, with car bombs and shootouts commonplace. Khoj Ahmed Nukayev, a philosophical Chechen gangster, tried to unite the clans for national liberation. Though ultimately unsuccessful, he embodied the Chechen Mafia's unique drive, crime as a form of resistance. Their challenge forced the Russian underworld to become more organized and brutal. The Chechens changed the rules of the game. The new millennium brought Vladimir Putin to power, and a new war on organized crime. Putin's goal: restore state control, not destroy the underworld, but make it serve Kremlin interests. The flamboyant mob bosses of the 1990s were eliminated, assassinated, or imprisoned. The message: the state was the biggest gang in town. The government absorbed the criminal world, blurring lines between gangsters, officials, and security agents. The state took over the most lucrative rackets, from oil to alcohol. Criminals who cooperated with the state survived. Those who clung to the old code were targeted. The mafia was nationalized, becoming a tool of state power. The old Vory v Zakone, sworn to never cooperate, became obsolete. New laws made it a crime simply to hold the title of thief-in-law. Betrayals and state pressure eroded the brotherhood. The golden age of the Russian mafia ended, not with a war, but a quiet takeover. Today, the swaggering gangster of the 1990s is a ghost. Open street wars are gone. The state has reasserted dominance. The great criminal empires have been dismantled, absorbed, or driven underground. The old Vory v Zakone are a dying breed, their code irrelevant in a world of cybercrime and state-sponsored racketeering. But Russian organized crime hasn't disappeared. It's evolved. The new mobster wears a suit, not tattoos, and specializes in white-collar crime fraud, embezzlement, and money laundering. They operate through shell companies and offshore accounts, making them harder to catch. The thieves' code, the ponyati, has seeped into mainstream culture. Its language and cynicism now part of business and politics. The line between crime and state is now almost invisible. Russian criminal groups sometimes act as unofficial arms of the state, handling intelligence and sanctions evasion. The gangster has become a shadow patriot. The Russian mafia's story is one of adaptation, always surviving, always changing. The ghost of the Vory still haunts Russia, a reminder that new empires are always waiting in the shadows.